And away we go. It's the DFS Other presented by Awesemo.com. Dan Strafford, Adam Share along with you on this Thursday morning. We have a 3-game NBA slate ahead of us. We'll go game by game. We'll tackle each one. We are recording slightly earlier on Wednesday night, so don't have full lines on those as of yet, but we'll pull up a couple different sites to make sure we are up to date as we go. Adam, how the hell are you doing?
Doing pretty good. It's been an interesting basketball week. Yesterday's basketball slate was one of the crazier ones we've seen in a while. So with 3 games today, it obviously can't be that bad. So it'll be a nice change of pace.
He says as he knocks wood and throws some salt over his shoulder to wish that it is not as crazy. And obviously just sheer numbers, it can't be. But I do like to get quickly here. Anything changing in your approach to NBA? I know you've had not the season you wanted to. Anything changing in approach from MME or from a projection standpoint or anything that you've seen across this season that's making you not even second guess, but sort of reassess the way you're going about your NBA lineup construction?
Not really. Lately, I have been, I guess, playing a little bit more contrarian than I was. I think it's not a huge change for me. It's just that's a minor change that I've made. Just getting, I think recently, especially on DraftKings, their pricing has been a bit tighter, and we're still seeing very concentrated ownership because everyone uses projections that are very similar. So I've started to play a little bit more contrarian because I think that as the pricing gets tighter, there's kind of less. Everyone's going to like one good play when there's a bunch of other good plays that are basically the same.
So you're saying on a 12-game slate, playing a Lou Williams at 55% ownership is not the way you go about it.
Right. So, I mean, I think I had like 45% Lou, and He was like 65% owned.
Right. And I think there are a lot of, and we don't need to belabor this here. We'll get into the games quickly. But if you're somebody who's trying to understand MME and why it matters, and Adam's saying, well, I only owned 45% compared to the field at 65%, and it sounds a little weird. You got to understand the math of it all and how your ownership matters comparatively to the field. And when you're playing max entries and multiple entries, how that can all work out from your representation in your lineups. It does sound strange saying, oh, I still played him, but he played at a lesser rate. So if you're interested in that sort of things, Awesemo.com does have a couple of articles on that. There's also plenty of YouTube videos available from the likes of Josh and Adam across a span of a number of years of doing DFS where they talk about these sort of things, Josh, especially from a fantasy cruncher / optimizer perspective along this stuff. But with that said, we have 3 games. We're going to talk about them here on Awesemo.com's The DFS Early Bird. We look at game number 1. And as we go through, I'll try to find the lines. This looks like Wizards at Cavaliers. This is going to be a barn burner. Well, honestly, it's going to be a high-scoring game. It's 2 bad teams. With a couple of superstars who are trying to prove their worth, potentially to be traded, and then a bunch of younger guys trying to make it work as well. Cleveland currently -1, a 232 over-under in this one. Clearly, you have the likes of Beal and Love who have tons of upside. If you talk about ceiling games and potential really blowing the lid off of a slate, it would seem like these are 2 guys who have that potential. Price point matters, and as always, DK is where we jump off, at least from a conversation standpoint. And we look at these 2 squads. You have Kevin Love at 8,100, Bradley Beal at 7,700, Sexton, Garland, 1,000 apart from each other at 65 and 55. Feels like pricing might be a little bit subdued here. You have Doncic at 12,300, LeBron at 10,400. Well, it all seems reasonable. Actually, DK is not pushing their prices down too much. What do you got in this one? Does this seem like a game that you're going to have honestly a bit of exposure to on a 3-gamer just because there's such a high potential for scoring here? Yes, it's a 230 something, but I could see 240, 245 in this one pretty easily.
Yeah, it's 2 teams that do not play defense. Washington plays reasonably fast. Cleveland, not so much. But, yeah, it should be a pretty appealing game from a DFS standpoint. Washington on the back-to-back. They're at Miami right now. It'll be interesting. I haven't been paying attention to the game. It seems like Beal's been playing pretty healthy minutes tonight, coming off of a 33-minute game last time. So if we're getting him back into that 34 to 36-minute range, then he obviously becomes really, really appealing. He's still really affordable. He's only 7,700 on DraftKings. Beyond that, though, the Wizards are still not the most appealing team just because right now they're not fully healthy, but they're as close as they've been in a while. So you're still getting kind of spread out minutes for guys like Troy Brown, Jordan McRae, Bryant's backing up Mahinmi, and they're basically splitting 48 minutes. Ish Smith's minutes have come down a little bit as well. So obviously you can in tournaments like throw darts at guys like Troy Brown and McRae and just
Sure.
hope that it's the night that they shoot well. But it's a lot less appealing team right now than it was a week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, McRae so far tonight, 25 minutes, which is significant with, I guess, 3 minutes left to go. 25 is a significant number off the bench for him. 2 for 2 from the free throw line, 2 of 8 from 3, 14 points, not a ton of peripheral stats. He has 4 assists. And you look at the likes of IT2, 14 points, 3 of 7 from three-point range. You asked about Beal. Beal's at 30 minutes with about 3 minutes to go, and he's on the court now. So assume he'll hit about 33 minutes again for the Washington Wizards here. And yet again, the automatic highlights on ESPN.com get me and scare the crap out of me while I'm trying to read a box score. But nonetheless, what about Cavaliers? Kevin Love feels like he's being showcased. Maybe that's just my sort of narrative laid in mind here that Cleveland would love to move him if they can package him and get some assets back, including some collateral for the draft. This is a guy who has obvious upside. The Wizards' front court has been injured. What do you make of Love and the rest of the Cleveland lineup?
Yeah, Love's been playing a lot of minutes lately, and then you get, obviously a favorable matchup against Washington. So I think he looks like a good option. He's always productive. It's just a matter of minutes, but you're getting 33, 34 minutes in competitive games now. A pretty nice rebounding spot for Tristan Thompson as well. Wizards have been in the bottom third of the league in offensive rebounds allowed and total rebounds allowed to opponents over the last month. So a pretty good spot for him. And then still reasonable pricing on Colin Sexton and Darius Garland. They have gotten more expensive, but since the Jordan Clarkson trade, you're seeing 34 plus minutes in competitive games. It's a good matchup against Washington. Larry Nance, I would shy away from now that his salary has come up. Also, John Henson's probable for this game, so that takes minutes most likely away from Nance as well.
And to point out a stat I do like to track a little bit, opponent points in the paint. These are 2 of the worst 5 teams in the NBA. So Washington sits in 27th at, 52.2. And then you have Cleveland as the worst team for points in the paint. And that means they overtook the Atlanta Hawks, who are at the bottom for much of the season. They're now at 54 as the worst team against for opponents' points in the paint, or I guess the best team when you're trying to target guys who get into the lane or big men for points in the paint against the opponent here. So you have some upside with some of these forwards and centers on both sides of the ball, and this should be a game that you target when you're talking about these other games where you do have higher price stars that you may be trying to fit some pieces around. We have Lakers and Brooklyn. The Lakers on a back-to-back, playing in New York and getting pushed a little bit in New York. I don't think anyone was really expecting this to be as much of a game as it has been. Elfrid Payton with a big block on LeBron James at the low block. If you haven't seen that highlight yet, you should check it out because it was fun to watch as a Knicks fan because they were going to lose this game anyway. But 94-87, lower scoring game. AD with a solid outing. Yeah, obviously have to start to think about maybe this is a rest spot for somebody between Anthony Davis and LeBron. But what do you think the Lakers bring to this game? Do you get some love for a center option like a Howard or McGee at sub 5K price points?
Yeah, it'll depend on Davis. Obviously, that's something you want to pay attention to. They had said he was going to be limited to around 30 minutes on Wednesday. He, of course, missed, I think it was 6 games with his ass bruise over the last couple of weeks. So we'll see if he's in. If he's in, it's hard to get to guys like Howard or McGee because obviously their minutes go down. But if Davis is out, then you go back to the situation where you're getting 48 minutes combined from Howard and McGee as their prices fall. So they would be 2 of the top players on the slate if Davis does sit. And you would, of course, get a bump for LeBron, too, if Davis sits because the usage goes up. Assist percentage comes down, but his overall production goes up a bit. So if Davis is in, then LeBron is a good option. He's still really cheap at $10,400 on DraftKings. But if Davis is out, it becomes even better.
What about the guards here for the Lakers? Is this a Rajon Rondo sort of night with 3,700?
I'll end up taking shots on him just because he's a good per minute player. It's really difficult to project more than 20 minutes for Rondo at this point, but sometimes he does get up to around 24 and he is capable of obviously really producing. And if I'm going to go to cheap value that I don't really love, I would just much rather be someone like Rondo, who is at least a productive player. And if for some reason he gets a few minutes more than I think he's going to, then I'm in really good shape compared to a guy like, off the top of my head, Avery Bradley, who is the exact opposite of that. Like, you can give Avery Bradley an extra 4 minutes and it probably means an extra 1 or 2 fantasy points.
And potentially a nice step in on a pick and roll and a ball getting slapped away that's not a steal, because that's what Avery Bradley does almost every game. Are there any other guards here that you like for the Lakers? Because typically the Nets have been a very good matchup for the backcourt of the opposing team.
Slates like this, it's not a bad idea to take a chance on Danny Green either. He's the more volatile player out of the trio of KCP, Bradley, and himself. So it's not like it's likely, but you do get those games where teams focus on LeBron and he kicks it out. And Danny Green has 6 threes at halftime.
Any love for any Brooklyn Nets here? Spencer Dinwiddie. I know Kyrie was dealing with a hamstring issue. He is expected to play Thursday night. Kyrie, Dinwiddie, any of these guys on your radar?
Karis LeVert. Irving is probable, and so that makes it really tough for Dinwiddie. Dinwiddie should still play low 30s in minutes, but when all of his minutes are coming alongside at least one of Kyrie Irving or Karis LeVert, it's just not as much usage or assist opportunities for Dinwiddie. But LeVert's really interesting to me because his price tag is still cheap. It's kind of been hovering around $5K or less since he came back from injury, and he's $4,900 here on DraftKings. He played, I think against Philly on Monday, he played 28.7 minutes, which obviously Kyrie was out of that game. But the reason that's important is because it's been a minutes limit thing for LeVert, why he hasn't been playing more minutes. He's one of the most talented guys they have on their team, and he's a guy that when he's not restricted, he's going to be in their closing lineup. So I think it's a big deal that he played almost 29 minutes because with Kyrie back, yes, his production goes down a little bit compared to when Kyrie is out. But I think you can still expect around 28 minutes from him. He should be in the closing lineup in a competitive game, and he's way too cheap for him to be getting close to full run.
That seems like everybody here, right, for this Brooklyn Lakers game?
Yeah, also pay attention to news on DeAndre Jordan. He's questionable right now. Nicholas Claxton is doubtful. So if Jordan were to be ruled out, you would have Jared Allen with essentially no backup.
Oh, there you go. So, yeah, Claxton, what injury is he dealing with? His shoulder injury is doubtful. There you go. So that would be interesting. So what do you get? Wilson Chandler at the 4? What happens then for the Nets as a backup? That will be a mess.
Well, and I mean, it's a tough matchup for that too, because you're talking about the 5 minutes for the Lakers going to Howard, McGee, and Davis.
Right.
That's a pretty tough spot to be looking to someone like Taurean Prince or Wilson Chandler.
All right. So let's talk about this final game where we get is this Lillard's first game after a 61-point outing? Is that right?
Yes, he did that on.
Yep. So the Golden State overtime game, 45 minutes, 61 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 92 DraftKings points. A matchup here with your Dallas Mavericks. Listen, Lillard, when he's in the zone, is amazing. When he's, you have to project him to be in that zone. I don't know how you do that when it comes to DFS projections, but you have Doncic at 12-3, Lillard at 9-9. Whiteside is at 8-8, and then Porzingis at 8K are sort of your stars in this one. And then you talk about the likes of McCollum and Anthony. But I want to get your take here off the top because of the big injury to Dwight Powell, the Achilles rupture, which was so sad to watch. You could see it happen live, and you knew exactly what you were watching. But do you have any take on the front court for Dallas between Kleber and the other pieces they might have there? And I guess Boban has some sort of say here in some way, shape, or form. But any take on the Dallas front court, and then we'll talk about the rest of the pieces.
Yeah, so Maxi Kleber should be the biggest beneficiary in terms of minutes, and he's a reasonably productive player when he's out there. Boban's the really interesting part because it seems like every year he's on a team where the guy ahead of him gets hurt.
Yep.
And everyone gets excited, and then the team's just like, yeah, no, we're still not playing this guy.
Well, he plays 12 minutes. Yeah.
Right. And at 3,900 on a 3-game slate, he only needs 12 minutes. But the thing that I think is interesting here too is if you think about the matchup, like there are some spots where Boban can go out there and play 30 minutes because he's going up against like a DeAndre Jordan type guy. But the backup center for the Blazers right now is Carmelo Anthony. That's not someone Boban is defending. So I don't really know what to expect here. I mean, I guess he gets his 12 minutes. Maybe maybe Carlisle, kind of staggers the minutes. So Boban's out there against Whiteside, and then they bring Maxey back in for the Carmelo Anthony minutes. That would be my guess. But it's going to be really interesting to see how exactly he runs this rotation.
I mean, you talk about Carmelo, Boban defending Carmelo, but I really want to watch Carmelo defend Boban.
Yeah, that's it.
I want to watch the other side of that matchup. All right, let's go.
But the thing is, Boban has to actually get back to the offensive
Yep.
end in order for him to need to be defended.
That is a very fair point. I just really think at some point they need to remake, and this is one of my favorite movies of all time. I just want to see Boban in The Princess Bride remake at some point because that's worthwhile. But
have you seen the size of his wife compared to him?
No, I have not.
Oh yeah, that's worth Googling.
All right, I'll do that after the fact, and I hope it doesn't bring up any images I don't want to see. Luka and Lillard, Whiteside, Porzingis are our top end, 8K and above. What are your takes on the stars in this one?
Yeah, so Porzingis back, it takes some production away from Luka. It does give him more assist opportunities. The salary is just really expensive. It's a good matchup for Luka, but I think I would rather take a shot on some of the cheaper guys. You have, $4,700 Tim Hardaway. You have Maxey, who we talked about. If you can get to Luka, by all means, but I just think this is a slate where the mid range is relatively strong, where you have Dame and Whiteside from the Portland side. You have potentially a $6,700 McCollum over there. You have Beal, you have Love on the slate. It's not one where I think it's too likely I'm going to be jamming in a bunch of Luka.
All right. Any other thoughts on this one, on what upside or maybe upside lineups could be built around the pieces in this game?
McCollum obviously makes a big difference. Lillard's price tag jumped to $9,900 on DraftKings. Yep. That's still a perfectly fine price if McCollum is out. But if McCollum's in, then you're definitely overpaying for Lillard.
All right. Any overall thoughts? I'll ask you the question of all the stars. You just touched on Doncic, but let's say Irving and above, Irving, Whiteside, AD, assuming he's in, Lillard, James, and Doncic. How do you feel about the top stars, and which one would you be building your lineup around?
Assuming McCollum's in, assuming McCollum and Davis are both in, I think Whiteside's the most appealing.
Okay.
If Davis is out, then it's LeBron. If McCollum's out, then it's Dame.
All right. A lot of ifs on this slate. I know you said this is going to be a little bit better to deal with than you might get from our slate on Wednesday night, but there's a lot of ifs here. A lot of if-then.
Yeah, but there's only 3 games worth. We had 12 games worth on Wednesday.
Let me have my moment here, Adam. I'm trying to make this somewhat intriguing in some way, shape, or form. But obviously, we have lots of content available for you over on Awesemo.com. You do get the deeper dive behind the paywall. It is Awesemo.com, and you can get tons of content as well as the deeper dive. You get the ownership projections. You get the projections per player. And, of course, you get access to Slack chat, which gives you access to not only the analysts for Awesemo, but all of the users as well to discuss your lineups and discuss your strategy throughout the day. Alex Baker, also known as Awesemo DFS, he does a live show for subscribers only, typically at 4 p.m. on most slates. Not every slate, but on most slates, so you can check that out as well. If you just want the free stuff, and hell, there's a lot of it, you can check out this here podcast on YouTube. Check it out on SoundCloud and different podcasting apps. You can also, of course, check out the deeper dive at 5 p.m. Adam and Lofty, typically at 5 p.m. with lineup lock at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and then you get live before lock at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's the NBA strategy show. You get tons of look ahead at the slate and what the questions around injuries and the like could be. Check out Adam on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. Find me at Dan Stravert if you so choose, and it's Awesemo_com for our website. With that said, tomorrow morning it's Lofty and myself right here on the DFS Early Bird presented by Awesemo.com.